Mola Sanmonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday! Yay! Welcome to another episode, indeed the Friday edition of Vuka Nazo here on the Big Daddy Liberty Show. If you want to get in touch with us, it's a simple equation. Find us, please, on our website. Easy peasy at www.bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can also pledge a contribution, a monthly contribution of as little as 100 Rand a month. Guys, do it. Support the show, please. Help us grow and professionalize this broadcast as we look to do much more bigger and better things here on the BDL show. With that being said, enough with the jibber jabber. Let's get straight into the news. Right, we begin here this morning when I give you some by-election results. Yeah, but yes, there were two major, crucial by-elections that were battled out on Wednesday, the results of which have been rather interesting. Those two that I'm referring to, of course, was in Ward 12. That's in the uMhlathuze municipality, of course, the Richards Bay being its major town. You'll remember we spoke about this particular by-election as a side note in relation to that story of the ANC having accused Gift of the Givers of political bias. Well, that particular by-election of Ward 12, the IFP clean sweep, winning that particular ward rather convincingly, indeed by a margin of over 400 votes, pipping the ANC and securing its place, that's the IFP, as the leading party in that particular coalition, giving itself, if you will, more breathing room in that municipality. A massive result insofar as an affirmation that KZN is clearly dumping the ANC. Let me say that again. KwaZulu-Natal is clearly dumping the ANC, and the ANC know that, and that is why they are panicking. It's all panic stations at the moment for the ANC in KZN, with it resorting to all sorts of desperate things, perhaps even including accusing Gift of the Givers of all organizations of political bias. The other by-election result, of course, was all the way in the Western Cape, in the Central Karoo, that is Ward 4, was heavily contested between the DA. Let me read a quick piece out in News 24 that wrote this story up. Now, the DA has taken Ward 4 in the Central Karoo town of Prince Albert during what was a hotly contested by-election on Wednesday, making it the first Central Karoo municipality to be governed outright by the DA. The party took the ward with just over 50% of the votes. End of quote. Now, these results are super important because they speak to, perhaps, as a small trend, I mean, it's just one by-election, people, but they speak to what the opposition parties in this country have been quietly doing in the background. That is, in the mainstream media, where they've been accused of all sorts of things, from being racist, a whites-only party, that's the DA, the IFP being accused of being a tribalist party, blah, blah, blah. They've clearly, these two political parties, simply shut out that mainstream noise, and they're focused on just getting results. And these two by-elections are perhaps testament to that. These political parties quietly doing the work. And maybe, maybe, just maybe, the distractions often of the coalition governments that they're in various parts of the country are exactly that, perhaps distractions. Are we seeing really a more consistent move away from the ANC by the electorate? KZN bodes well for the Western Cape, indeed the Karoo. This bodes well for them. That, of course, is me making that statement away from any support for any political party. We don't support any political parties here on the show, but what we do support, of course, is any move away from the ANC, and clearly these parties are doing the quiet work of convincing you to vote for them. All right, now I take you to the community of Sandra, of course, in Mpumalanga, a farming community in the part of the world where this is a shocking story that came up, but shocking because for me it also ends in great news. Which is a farm owner who had faced two intruders armed with knives, shot them dead, and protected, of course, himself, his family, and indeed the community. The feedback on social media to this issue as I've seen it, has been overwhelmingly popular and happy as people recognize what the political elites in this country don't. Crime is out of control, and where anybody still expects the state to protect you in situations like these, you would be foolhardy. And that is why every time we see ordinary, law-abiding, sane, moral, prudent individuals defending themselves and doing so successfully, okay. And that for me is always a favorable outcome. Now, this particular incident, of course, is being investigated by the police, as they do, as is routine, insofar as there were 2 deaths in this incident. So they've opened up an inquest into the matter and are also investigating the alleged case of housebreaking by these 2 individuals. The write-up I saw, of course, in The Independent, which basically cited the police spokesperson in the area having said this. Now, of course, Brigadier Selvi Mohlala, who is the spokesperson there, basically said the police report indicates that in the early hours of the day, they received a complaint regarding a shooting incident at the said farming plot. Upon the arrival of the police, they found 2 males with gunshot wounds who were later certified dead by the paramedics that attended to the scene as well. It goes on to say that those 2 men are suspected of having entered the house where they supposedly gained entry through breaking a window in one of the rooms. It's further alleged that they were in possession of knives, end of quote. And again, as I said, this man, having spotted these guys waking up obviously to the sound of commotion, defended himself when he saw that firstly his property had been violated, but more importantly that his life was at risk. That, dear South African, is exactly why on the show we keep affirming the idea that get armed, get training, get licensed, buy a firearm and protect yourself and your family. In this particular case, this farmer did exactly that. Kudos to him. He gets to live another day. All right, in the final story for the day, I asked the question, is there nothing sacred in this country from the likes of the tenderpreneurs and the BE entitled types? Is there nothing sacred? I ask this question, of course, in the context of the appearance by the Minister of Water and Sanitation at SCOPA. That's, of course, one committee in Parliament where the minister concedes that water provision by way of tankering, that's water tankers, for example, during emergency situations, has now become the refuge for the corrupt. Effectively, those corrupt colluding, as it is alleged, with municipal officials or politicians at times to sabotage water infrastructure in order to get tenders for water provision via tankers. Indeed, this is a spectre that is one that is alleged to be rife even here, where I'm at in the eThekwini municipality, where, I mean, even the trucks that you often see driving past, and there's numerous of them, you know, will have messages warning against corruption or other little taglines like "water is free, report any corruption" around this issue. Well, the corruption, it seems to be not necessarily at the level of the water tanker, the individual water tanker, but actually the people who own them and the corrupt means through which they get to provide this water. The write-up in EWN, which tracked this particular SCOPA meeting, and the comments by MCHUNU, the Water and Sanitation Minister, basically cited him saying this. Now, MCHUNU, that's the Minister of Water and Sanitation, acknowledged what he called a new form of corruption in the provision of water tankers. He's quoted as saying, in some cases, water tankering has become an official corruption field, a kind of syndicate legitimized in some cases by mayors themselves or some people in excos and municipalities. Yebo, yes, indeed, MCHUNU is right on the mark here. But again, him being right as the political person in charge of this field is simply not good enough. He needs to be someone who's at the forefront of fighting and breaking these chains, if you will, these syndicates, to be more specific, of corrupt, entitled BE types who leech off of government tenders and often do so on critical services such as water, for instance. This is just one. There are other services which, through preferential procurement, a provision of BE, we've seen the rise of these almost syndicate forum-like organizations who capture the market and are allegedly not even averse to destroying infrastructure in order to get tenders to provide the very same service that they've just sabotaged or destroyed. SAPS needs to get on top of this, and if anything, let me take it in 3 steps. Getting rid of the ANC is the first step insofar as also busting this ideology that comes with ANC governance of the BEE elites, the ones who are using state resources and often critical services such as water, electricity, and the like, monetize it for the benefit of lining their pockets in the name of course, transformation. You have to begin to kill that particular ideology to then transition to the next one of a merit-based system, having people in government services such as water, electricity, whatever the case, who are there on merit, who are there to provide the actual services to us, poor, rich, and super wealthy, who use and are dependent on these services. That is the key difference as to what needs to happen in these situations. So it's not enough for a Willis Mkhunu, the current minister, to lament this issue as though he's also sitting in opposition or in the public like we are. He has the power to do something, and if he doesn't want to do anything, well then get him out the way and vote in people who do want to fix this issue. All right, folks, that's it from me on this a beautiful Friday edition of Vuka Nazo. I hope you enjoyed the show this week. Drop your comments, let me know what you think about the show. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me, find me on my website, easy peasy, www.bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can also, if you scroll to the bottom of the website, contribute to the show financially. If you want to get in touch with us on our social media, all of that information is in the descriptor of this video. Speaking about social media, if you're watching this on YouTube in particular, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so that you're notified every weekday from 7 a.m. when Vuka Nazo is on your screens. Shabbat Shalom, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.